The night is thin and brittle when the first hoofbeats tremble across the camp, a faint rhythm against packed earth that feels more like the breathing of some vast creature than the sound of horses. Darkness holds the leather streets in silence, broken only by the hiss of dying embers and the occasional clink of iron against wood. Around you, Rome begins to stir, not in confusion, but with the certainty of a ritual repeated 1,000 times. Imagine 30,000 living beings, men, mules, horses, carts, contained within neat geometric rows of tents, every rope aligned, every stake driven to regulation depth. This is not chaos, it is order sharpened into a weapon. A low trumpet drags the stars toward morning. Cloaked riders slip through the eastern gate. The speculatores roam silent eyes. They vanish into the pre-dawn mist to probe ridges and river fords, their hooves muffled, shields wrapped, blades oiled to silence. Their absence is a hollow at the edge of the legion's awareness, a reminder that safety is earned by vigilance before light. Centurions pace the rows, vine staffs tapping a metronome on the hardened soil. 8 men to a contubernium rouse without complaint, rolling bedding, sealing waxed kits, buckling straps. No voice rises above a whisper. Discipline has burned the need for grumbling out of the marrow of these soldiers. They wake because duty commands it, nothing more, nothing less. Each man shoulders his world. 25 kilograms of armor, shield, pila, rations, cooking tools, and 3 sharpened stakes. No wagon will cradle their comforts. No servant will carry their bed. A legionary is his own quartermaster, engineer, and porter, earning with sweat the name Marius's mule. Once an insult, now a badge of iron-backed pride. Beyond the sleeping rows, the handlers stir the mules. Grain rattles into leather nosebags. Water sloshes from wooden tubs. Wheels turn as axles are checked by torchlight. The long serpent of the impedimenta breathes into being, lifeline of the army. Heavier than its swords, yet as essential as blood. Dew slicks the bronze of helmets until they glow pale silver in the first breath of dawn. Orders ripple outward in precise Latin clipped by experience. Scouts 3 miles ahead, vanguard at the Porta Praetoria. Cohorts collapse the streets and strike tents. Canvas folds like a vanishing dream. Pegs come free. Trenches are filled. Within minutes, the grid dissolves, leaving only churned soil and faint prints. Rome's ghost city has melted back into the earth, erasing evidence of 30,000 sleepers. The marching column uncoils. It is not a mob, but an articulated serpent, every joint rehearsed. The vanguard steps first, lean auxiliaries of Numidian horse, Thracian skirmishers, Cretan bowmen, men chosen for speed and nerve, fanning out to sweep the road of surprises. Behind them march the agrimensaries, surveyors with measuring rods and groma who will decide tonight as sleeping ground hours before the sun dies. Geometry is survival. A misplaced camp is an invitation to slaughter. The command nucleus follows, legatus legionis astride a pale charger, tribunes and scribes at his side, the gilded eagle flashing fire as dawn leaks through the trees. Cursores wait like coiled springs to sprint messages up and down the spine of the army. Then the heartbeat arrives. 10 cohorts per legion, 2 legions today, each century sliding into its appointed slot. Veterans at the edges set the cadence, recruits cushioned in the center where fear cannot ferment. Shields angle, pila balance, gladi ride easy at the hip. The column, seen from a hill, resembles a dark river braided with sunlight, purposeful and silent. Oxen lean into creaking carts, leather straps strain, iron rims groan over stones. The smell of wet earth mingles with olive oil, sweat, and the faint sting of smoke. No marching song drifts upward, no jester's quip. Only the thump of hobnailed sandals synchronizing thousands of hearts. 15 Roman miles separate this host from the river valley where tonight's castrum will rise. Charts studied the night before promised gentle inclines, no major ford, moderate tree cover, perfect ground for stealth and tempo. Shafts of light spear through forest corridors, igniting bronze scales until the column glitters like a moving constellation. Silence reigns, an omen to enemies who have likened it to the hush before a storm. When trumpets finally breathe, the legion halts for prima stadio. Packs drop, water skins tilt, shoulders roll. 10 measured minutes of stillness, nothing wasted, no man sprawling in careless ease. Horns sound again and the flow resumes before idleness can root. Cavalry outriders wheel across unseen ridges, measuring slopes, tracing faint trails. Flank patrols melt into thickets without snapping a twig, ghosting ahead where no order need follow. On a rise, the aquifer lifts the eagle and sunlight crowns its wings. Morale pulses down the column like a shared heartbeat. Snatches of life whisper through the tramp of feet. A centurion murmuring the day's tessera, a fabri checking iron rivets and muttering about damp wood, a recruit reciting maxims under his breath. Discipline, silence, endurance. Engineers balance mattocks, medics inventory salves, clerks tally rations, each fragment locking into the grand mechanism. War for Rome is not chaos but administration on the march. The ridge falls away to a patchwork of fields stitched with dry stone walls. A river glints like a drawn blade in the distance. Horns signal adjustment of pace. Horses toss their heads, infantry shifts weight. The column lengthens and compresses as one body. The sun climbs, draping helmets in molten light until the army blazes like a serpent of fire threading the valley. Behind, the campsite is already swallowed by wind and silence, its order erased as though 30,000 souls had been a passing dream. Yet the war machine moves mile by mile, tightening the Empire's grip with every synchronized step. Mid-morning deepens and the march becomes a rhythm older than memory. Each footfall strikes the hardened earth like a heartbeat, measured, relentless. The forest thins to low ridges where wind combs the grass, carrying the scent of crushed time and distant water. Above, larks coil in the pale sky, their song lost beneath the low hiss of leather straps and the faint metallic whisper of spearheads shifting with the stride. The legion is not hurrying. Haste is the enemy of cohesion. It advances as if the world itself will bend rather than bar its passage. Trumpets breathe again, a rising two-note signal that rolls down the column like a ripple of bronze. Cohorts ease pace. Another regulated halt. Packs slip to the ground, knees flex, shoulders unknot. 10 minutes only, enough to sip water, adjust straps, rewrap a sandal strap rubbed raw by the morning miles. There is no sprawl, no laughter. Men chew dried figs, gnaw a strip of bacon, wipe dust from a cheek. A centurion stalks the line, vine staff tracing idle circles in the air. His presence is reminder and threat, a silent edict that time belongs to Rome, not to fatigue. The march resumes before the body dares stiffen. Horses toss foam, wagons groan back into cadence, oxtails swish at persistent flies. Far ahead, the speculatories crest a knoll, scanning the undulating plain for glint of hostile iron. A flutter of hand signal assures the legatus all is clear. Yet flank patrols continue to melt into hedgerows and shallow ravines, pacing the invisible perimeter. Discipline here is not merely order, it is survival draped in silence. By the 5th mile, the sun sits fully on its throne, heat pooling on iron helmets, dripping along the spine. The smell of oiled leather mingles with sweat and faint, sour wine. Inside every breastplate, a thin stream of warmth trickles, absorbed without protest. Rome teaches the soldier to ignore the body's small rebellions. Pain is a whisper. Command is the voice that drowns it. To the left, a stream ripples under alder shade, silver fish flickering in the shallows. Scouts test the ford, plant a marker stake, wave the column onward. The crossing is shallow. Caligae slap water. Shields rise slightly to avoid spray. On the opposite bank, the line reforms without pause. Along the baggage train, a wheel creaks louder than expected. A fabri crouches, inspects a split spoke, wedges a temporary brace, and lashes it tight. No argument, no delay. The march swallows the problem before it can swell. Behind him, a medic fingers small packets of honey and vinegar, ready for the next blistered foot or scraped knuckle. Every profession within the legion marches as surely as the swordsman, the quiet lattice that keeps the serpent alive. The day bends toward its zenith and the legion's breathing slows to conserve strength. Commands reduce the pace a fraction. Veteran soldiers adjust their grip on shields, rolling shoulders to keep circulation alive. Recruits mimic them, eager to blend into the seasoned tide. Somewhere deep in the column, a mule brays, silenced instantly by a sharp tug on the halter. Order folds over noise like water over a pebble. At the 12th mile, horns sing the call for Meridiana Quais, the short noon rest. Columns unravel into shaded folds of terrain chosen the night before. Shields tilt into improvised awnings. Wine flasks uncork with a sigh. Men squat in loose circles, bread and cheese shared, water replenished from skins dipped in the stream. Some splash faces, others stretch hamstrings against the burden of the march. A century drills quietly at the fringe, their centurion favoring repetition over idleness. Officers consult wax tablets, marking distance covered, estimating arrival at the river plain where geometry will once again draw a fortress from raw earth. The legatus dismounts beneath a lone oak, converses with his tribunes in low tones. Scribes hover, stylus poised, recording rations consumed, mules tallied, a cart replaced. War for Rome is ink as much as iron. Every loaf counted, every drop of oil accounted for. Numbers dictate survival as surely as sharpened steel. The noon rest dissolves with another curt signal. Packs rise, straps creak, animals snort dust from their nostrils. Within heartbeats, the serpent is whole again, scales of iron glinting under an indifferent sun. The road now tilts downward toward the valley. Heat shimmers over grain fields, cicadas drone, the landscape breathes slower. The legion's tempo quickens subtly to capitalize on downhill ground, steps lengthening into a long, tireless glide. Voices murmur in Latin cadences, restrained but not joyless. Brief comments on water sources. A joke whispered between veterans, the clack of wooden tally boards. An officer reins in, scans the flank, dispatches a rider with a flick of his hand. The message snakes ahead and behind before the dust has settled. Communication in this machine is a living current. An order given at the head can reach the tail before the ink on a wax tablet dries. By mid-afternoon, the valley unfurls fully. A wide floor hemmed by gentle ridges, grass rippling like green silk. A stand of willow shadows, a looping bend of river. It is here the surveyors halt, planting stakes that will sketch tonight's castrum. They pace measured steps, aligning imaginary streets, tracing the ghost of ramparts yet to rise. Their gestures are a silent promise. When the sun sinks, Rome will sleep behind a wall of her own making. The column coils into an assembly near the water. Trumpets announce Seconda Stadio, a longer halt for watering beasts and issuing final distance tallies. Mules drink greedily, nostrils blowing foam. Men refill skins, splash dust from shins. The air hums with restrained energy. The day's true labor is about to begin, for the march is only half the ritual. The greater theater waits in piles of stakes, mattocks, and the sweat of men about to conjure a fortress from unbroken sod. Officers circulate, reminding cohorts of the evening assignments. One century will dig the ditch, another raise the earthen wall, others cut timber, align gates, assign guard posts. The Legion has practiced this choreography until instinct replaces thought. Even in hostile lands, there is no improvisation. Geometry commands obedience more absolute than any general's shout. The sun leans westward, gilding the ripples of the river and the line of waiting helmets. Shadows lengthen, but the war machine does not slacken. Orders crack like snapped branches. Carts roll toward the chosen site. Engineers unfold measuring cords. 30,000 lives pivot from motion to creation, and the grass underfoot trembles at the weight of intent. Rome does not merely camp, she colonizes each nightfall. The smell of churned earth and fresh-cut timber soon mingles with sweat and iron. As mattocks bite soil, the Legion's hum returns, a chorus of effort rising and falling with every heaved basket of dirt. Around you, the first stakes stand like bare ribs against the sinking light. In the distance, flank patrols melt along the ridge, eyes on tree line, ears pricked for any rustle that is not the whisper of wind. Silence is safety, yet even silence bends beneath the thought of unseen watchers. The river glows copper as the day wanes, reflecting the eagle standard lifted above the forming gate. Soldiers move in timed circuits, tamping walls, measuring depth, leveling ground for tent lines. Somewhere a mule screams briefly, checked by a firm hand. Order enfolds the noise again, unbroken. The war machine has shifted gear from serpent to architect, its coils tightening into a fortress no storm may surprise. Darkness begins its slow creep across the valley. Sparks leap from the first cooking fires, low and discreet, hidden beneath angled shields to mask their glow. Smoke threads into the wind, carrying the faint smell of barley porridge and brine. The sky bruises violet, yet the work continues, rampart rising, gates aligned, watch rotations posted. Rome's heartbeat does not sleep, it merely changes tempo. The day's march lies behind, but the night's discipline is still a frontier to be conquered. Men stretch aching legs, roll shoulders, mutter brief prayers to Mars. Centurions walk the fresh-cut streets, eyes measuring every stake, every trench line. Tomorrow the machine will move again, leaving no trace but flattened grass and a few stray hoof prints. Tonight, under a lattice of stars, it will breathe within its new skin of earth and timber, a living fortress holding 30,000 dreams of glory and the unspoken fear of what waits beyond the ridge. Night leans down over the valley until the ridges are only darker shades of sky. Inside the new-made walls, the camp exhales, a hush that smells of sweat, earth, and wood still bleeding sap. Torches gutter low, wrapped in leather shields to dim their reach. The Legion prefers shadows to flames that could guide an arrow. Streets appear where there was grass a few hours before, ruler straight, traced by the agrimensors as if divined by geometry itself. Each tent now stands taut, aligned by rank, centurions at the street corners, tribunes near the heart, the legatus beneath a ridgepole taller than any other. And at the exact center, the Aquila, resting under guard like a sliver of the sun caught and chained. Men crouch by shallow hearths, grinding grain on palm-sized stones, stirring thick barley gruel with horn spoons. Vinegar mixed with water becomes pasca, sour but safe, slaking thirst better than any wine. Bits of bacon sizzle low, the scent weaves between tents, a ghost of home that never quite belongs here. Armor plates unbuckle with sighs of relief, shields lean against tent poles, sandals are scraped clean of mud. Even in repose, movement is measured. No shouting, no reckless laughter. The voice of Rome after dark is a murmur, a thread of Latin vowels lost in the breathing of horses. Centurions drift like iron-spined ghosts, counting tent rows, checking stakes, murmuring the tessera to each contubernium. Failure to know the password can mean a blade at your throat, friend or foe decided by a single syllable. The first watch begins as the western rim glows faintly where the last embers of sunset drown. Guards climb the rampart, spears planted, eyes sweeping the darkened fields beyond the river. Somewhere out there, foxes yip, owls drop silent from cedar branches, reeds rattle with the slipping of unseen creatures. Every sound is weighed. Wind, water, or a step not Roman. At the forge, a Fabry coaxes the last breath from the day's fire, mending a rivet, resetting a wheel band, scraping burrs from a pilum head. Sparks leap and die in the breeze. He wipes his palms on wool, nods once, and banks the coals until morning. Beside him, a medic rinses linen in a basin of cold water, fingers smelling of honey and vinegar, laying out splints for whatever dawn may demand. Rome sleeps, but her tools are sharpened in the dark. Further down the inner street, a mule shifts restlessly, hooves clacking against the packed clay. A servant hums a low tune, rubs the animal's flank, and knots the tether twice for luck. Grain sacks thump as they are stacked beneath canvas awnings. No loaf is left exposed. Vermin, hunger, or careless moisture are enemies equal to any barbarian. Order is the true rampart. Without it, even 30,000 men dissolve into scattered echoes. Trumpets murmur a soft call, barely louder than the wind, signaling the rotation of the first watch. Reliefs move like silhouettes, shadows replacing shadows atop the rampart. Eyes adjust to moonlight that silvers spear points and glints along the rim of shields. Below, the rest of the army curls into cloaks, heads on rolled tunics, one hand always near the hilt of the gladius. 1,000 dreams hover but rarely bloom. Instinct keeps the mind tethered to the hiss of grass, the crunch of distant gravel, the thud that might be a branch or a boot. Hours stretch thin. Torches at the gates sputter blue as dew condenses, chilling leather straps. The tessera is whispered from lip to lip with the precision of a litany, each soldier repeating it until the word is carved into the air. Punishment for slumber on guard is death by the stones of one's brothers. Memory of that law prowls the ramparts like a silent wolf. Sleep, when it comes, is light, porous, and never trusted. A breath too deep, a twitch too long, and an officer's shadow is already there. Past midnight, the legatus rises briefly, confers with a tribune, checks a wax tablet etched with tomorrow's route. Distance, river depth, timber stands, risk of ambush. He does not pace or fret. Strategy has been distilled to habit, and habit wears the face of calm. Outside his tent, 2 guards stand motionless, bronze glinting dully in the sliver moon. The eagle rests on its perch wrapped in crimson cloth, its wings folded as if dreaming of the sun. Toward the third watch, mist crawls from the river, creeping low across the ditch, veiling the palisade in silver smoke. Sentinels tighten cloaks, spear butts planted hard against the sod. A dog growls once, quiets. Beyond the glow of camp, hills brood in darkness, hiding whoever listens. Rome answers with vigilance, not fear. The rampart is manned, the gates barred, the password alive in 100 throats. Inside the castrum, men shift in their cloaks, stirring embers to coax a last lick of warmth. Some whisper prayers to Mars, Fortuna, or household gods they have carried as amulets from farms far away. Others trace scars on forearms, counting campaigns like beads on a string. No one believes safety is permanent. Peace is merely the pause between orders. The eastern horizon pales with the first breath of dawn. A rooster somewhere beyond the wall splits the hush with a brittle crow. Watchmen straighten, eyes narrowing to the soft gold bleeding into indigo. Trumpets whisper the change of watch. The camp stirs again, an animal rousing from shallow slumber. Sandals are laced, straps tightened, leather creaks as armor finds shoulders. The tessera is spoken anew. Orders ripple outward. Ready the beasts, stow the bedding, prepare to collapse the streets. The fortress will dissolve as swiftly as it was birthed, leaving only tamped grass and a ghost of geometry in the soil. Men sip the last of the pasca, chew the last crust, strap shields, hitch belts. Engineers coil measuring ropes. Surveyors tap out stakes with mallets, marking distance for the column's rebirth on the road. Cavalry mounts stamp impatient hooves. The scent of oiled manes cuts through dawn damp. A centurion's voice, calm, precise, threads the murmur, announcing the day's first orders. The serpent is flexing again, muscles tensing for another league, another ridge, another chance to carve order into the map's blank spaces. Sunlight spears the camp's heart, flashing on the eagle's curve. Trumpets rise, steady and cold, a sound older than fear. Leather streets vanish beneath swift hands, ditch leveled, rampart flattened, tools bundled. The castrum fades, leaving no comfort for those who come hunting. 30,000 souls stand in ranks, the living weight of empire shifting from stillness to stride. You walk with them, feeling the earth drum beneath 1,000 synchronized steps, the pulse of history pressed into soil and sky. Yesterday's fortress becomes today's memory. Tomorrow's road waits, unwritten but certain. Rome moves and the world bends. The war machine marches on, an iron river chasing the horizon, patient as time, relentless as hunger, and behind it nothing but silence and the faint imprint of sandals in morning dew.